This is a podcast by the News Minute, and you are listening to South Central.
Hello and welcome to South Central, a TNM podcast where we put the South at the center. I am Dhanya Rajendran, your host, and joining me in the studio is my co-host, Pooja Prasanna, the reporting chief of the News Minute.
Hello. Late shoot this time.
Decked up in sari because she's just finished her Let Me Explain shoot.
It's not because I just enjoy dressing like this every day.
What is a Let Me Explain on?
We're doing a very difficult one on Kerala Kumbh, where there are like 100 names that I can't pronounce, but I've made an attempt, so do tell me if I'm bang on. Bharatapura.
Yeah, because she had to say that at least 5 times today. And before we go to the headlines, to those who are listening to South Central for the first time, here's a small introduction. This is a weekly podcast which comes every Friday. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all other podcast platforms. Every week, we look at important headlines from South India. Then we deep dive into 2 topics, and we have guests over, mainly journalists and experts, to talk about these topics. This week, we released our documentary on the Great Nicobar project done by my colleague Bhuvan Malik, who is also the producer of South Central. Dharani Prabhakaran has edited that video. It's 1 hour long. Do take some time to watch. It's about the transshipment port project which the government of India is planning in Nicobar. Bhuvan delves deep into what this will mean for the ecology of Nicobar, which is a pristine rainforest, and also what it will mean for the tribes who live there, which is the Shompen and the Great Nicobaris. So it took a lot of time. It was not an easy documentary to do because they were not even allowed to shoot when they went there. The security, the police, intelligence, they were following them. And it was not even easy to shoot the documentary.
They were not given access to a lot of key areas they wanted to go and visit.
Yeah, not only Bhuvan, even other journalists who went there, it's been very difficult to get information, to shoot or, to meet people. So, do watch it. And also remember, this entire documentary was funded by our subscribers. So very thankful to all of you. In fact, people wrote to us saying that why don't you guys take up this project, do something about it. So we started a small fund. People contributed to it. And that's how we had the money to allow Bhuvan to travel to Andaman Nicobar Islands. So do watch it. And do become a subscriber or contribute to a reporting fund because this allows us to do more ground reporting. Pooja, headlines.
In Chennai, security guard, wife and toddler murdered, bodies dumped across the city. The Chennai police have now arrested 5 men in connection with the triple murder of a migrant family from Bihar. This has happened in Adyar, and the investigators are suspecting the killings occurred after the accused allegedly attempted to sexually assault a woman. That is the wife. Some election-related news from Tamil Nadu. No notices to 88% Tamil Nadu voters who have faced deletion. Supreme Court to hear plea. Senior advocate Kapil Sibal, representing the petitioner, has suggested that the court extend the directions issued on the 19th of January, that is the West Bengal SIR case, to Tamil Nadu as well. And this is what he's told the court. Notices have been generated only for 18 lakh people. There's a gap of 88%. Those people have not received notices. The phase is ending on Jan 30th. And that's why Kapil Sibal has urged the court to take it up very quickly. This is something we were all fearing will happen with SIR. And it has happened. So the headline is from Power Trip. DMK Congress talks are cordial. No decision on seat sharing yet. The high-level meeting that took place between Rahul Gandhi and DMK MK Karimori yesterday was in Delhi. And what we've heard is that it's been mostly cordial. Power sharing has not been discussed in great detail.
But it will not happen is what we are told that the DMK is not going to agree to it and the Congress will be agreeable to no power sharing.
Yeah, but this entire talk about Congress in serious talks with TVK seems a little unlikely after all this.
Not seems, it is unlikely now.
I was just being polite again. A cash-rich newcomer is shaking up Malayalam television news. Does the math add up? This is a headline from a long piece that we published just last week. Do read it. It talks about a new channel that's come up called Big TV. And is coming up. It's splurging money, hiring big names, but why they're coming up, what it means, it's something
because there are too many news channels in Malayalam and revenue-wise, everybody is not doing very well. So the question Nidhish is asking in the story is, why come to this very crowded market? And he has got all the numbers. So do read that story.
Kerala Law Reforms Commission proposes to decriminalize giving dowry. The submission was made in a PIL filed by a young lawyer seeking accountability in dowry harassment cases. Now, I was quite curious why this is, but the reason is that it says that the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961 aims to decriminalize the act of giving dowry, and it wants to encourage victims to report dowry-related harassment. If it is decriminalized, the hope is that more people will report harassment instead of staying quiet. Kerala Budget 2026 hike for ASHA workers, major outlay for welfare pensions. The Kerala State Budget has announced a hike of 1,000 rupees in monthly honorarium for ASHA workers who've been protesting for months on end now. Anganwadi workers will also receive the same hike in payment, and Anganwadi helpers will get a monthly hike of 500 rupees. It's far less than what they have been asking. And it comes too close to elections for people to take this quietly, but
Take this seriously.
Take this seriously, but also this is a very interim budget, right? Because elections in a couple of months. So will the next government continue is the question. Moving on to Karnataka, we have never tapped phones of governor, says Karnataka Home Minister. G. Padmeshwara on Thursday said that the government would never engage in tapping the phones of the governor's office. This, of course, he said in response to allegations made by leader of opposition, R. Ashoka, who accused the government of tapping the governor of Karnataka, Thawar Chand Gehlot's phone. Of course, just before this, we'd seen a lot of drama in assembly when the governor refused to read most of the speech that was given by the cabinet. He just walked off by reading 2 lines. Bengaluru court gives clean chit to Sidramaiah and his wife in Muda case, accepts Lokayukta report. The report had come a while ago, as we had reported here. The Lokayukta police has now filed a B report, which basically means they've closed the case. It's a closure report. And this after the court said that there was insufficient evidence to substantiate allegations of corruption against Sidramaiah, his wife Parvati, and his brother-in-law Mallikarjun Swamy, and the former landowner J. Devraj.
Good news for Sidramaiah in case he is going to step down as chief minister. At least this case, he's got a clean chit from the lower court.
And good timing as well. He could get a small extension using this. Phone tapping case, this is Telangana. Now the Telangana Police SIT to probe KCR. The 9-member SIT is headed by Hyderabad City Police Commissioner V.C. Sajjanar, the encounter specialist, quote unquote. It was formed soon after the Congress came to power in the state. The phone tapping case pertains to accusations against BRS government of surveilling telephone conversations of over 600 people, including opposition leaders, judges, journalists, actors, and others under its 10-year rule. Medaram Jatra, stage set for Asia's largest tribal fair in Telangana. The stage is set for Samaka Saraka Jatra, which is called as the largest tribal fair in Asia. It starts in Medaram in Telangana's Mulugu district on Wednesday. We have a documentary that we'll be replugging.
Yeah, we had done a few years ago about how there is an appropriation allegation that the tribals are also being made to follow all kinds of Hindu rituals. So we'll try to re-upload that documentary. Not a documentary, a small news package, yeah.
Right. Moving to Andhra, Janasena MLA Aravu Sridhar accused of sexually harassing women. An FIR has been filed. The allegation surfaced after a woman government employee released a video on social media in which he accused the MLA of exploiting and threatening her over nearly 1.5 years. FIR has been filed, but he's not been arrested just yet, at least at the time of recording this. Needs to be seen whether somebody part of the ruling coalition will be in fact arrested. A couple of national headlines. Ajit Pawar funeral, Baramati bids farewell to Ajit Dada, as he was called fondly, with full state honours. Thousands pay last respect. This is a breaking news story that we brought yesterday. Now, of course, after the grief and everything, there will be also political repercussions of this. Will NCP, the two factions, reunite? Who will lead it? These are questions. What will happen to the government? These are questions people are pondering over. On same page, Shashi Tharoor, after meeting with Kharge and Rahul Gandhi, Shashi Tharoor was rumoured to have conflicts. I think rumoured is too generous a word here. To have conflicts with the Congress after he supported Operation Sindoor, launched by BJP-led union government as a response to the Pahalgam terror attacks.
So he's released a picture, all three of them sitting and smiling at the camera and saying all on the same page. So hopefully this puts an end to will Tharoor move to the BJP controversy at least the next 1.5 weeks. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so that's it for the headlines. The Supreme Court of India on January 29th put in abeyance the equity regulations by the University Grants Commission or the UGC, but in the lead up to what happened in the Supreme Court, we saw protests across many campuses in the country. We saw protests in Delhi especially. Though people kept saying hundreds of thousands of people, in the visuals, they were like tens of people coming out.
But
and
zoomed in.
Zoomed in very well. So joining us to speak about why such a regulation or law is important, what could have been the changes in the UGC equity regulations. Now remember, it's only stayed. It can always come back in a different form because the Supreme Court has asked certain questions and they want changes in the regulation, is Mridula Vanangamudi. Mridula is a rights-based lawyer. She practices in Bengaluru. And thank you very much for joining us, Mridula.
Thank you for having me, Dhanya.
And the hero is back, Sudipto Mondal. We get many letters every week saying, where is Sudipto? But whenever you appear, people are like, what did Sudipto say this week? Don't bring him back. So, on popular demand, you're back. Thank you very much, Sudipto.
Thank you.
So, you must have seen what the Supreme Court said today, Mridula. There were 2 or 3 important points which the Supreme Court raised. But I want to first start on something which all the protesters, people on the street, people on news studios have been continuously harping about, this clause of misuse, that this law will be misused, and they are citing the SC/ST Atrocities Act, saying that there is a history of this act also getting misused. So what's the guarantee that it won't happen? And this is what the protesters have been saying everywhere.
Okay, thank you for referring to SC/ST's Act, because there's a judgment by the Supreme Court headed by 3 judges that has said that attributing such suspicion against a community, when you're assuming that an entire class of beings will file false cases and may not have any bona fide grievance, is in itself against the fundamental human equality. This is Union of India versus State of Maharashtra 2020. This judgment was basically overturned the whole Subhash Kashinath Mahajan, sorry, I'm forgetting the exact. So the judgment which tried to remove the anticipatory bail in 2018. It basically addressed the concern that the Atrocities Act is liable to misuse, especially given the low rates of conviction. Now, you speak about conviction. If you're going to make that argument that when there is low conviction, then it's false cases, then let's look at conviction rates in the UAPA Act or any of these other special laws. They also have very low rates of conviction. And yet, we have them to be, very working, like they're held to be constitutional, and they are being used by whoever. So why should only one law? And when you see only when laws are beneficial to women or the marginalized folk, only then such uproar and concerns arise. By that logic, any law can be misused. I think IPC is no less misused for that matter, or BNS, whatever. So I don't think that's a valid concern. Having said that, the UGC regulations as it stands today is a little vague. And it needs to be revised to make it more tighter, to make it more robust. And there are many gaps. For example, there is a clause there's a definition clause on what caste-based discrimination is, but there's not an explicit prohibitory clause anywhere in the regulation. So these are all things that, and also it's the definition of caste-based discrimination isn't just about an identity, which is what the UGC regulation makes it out to be. It's deeper than that. You could have illustrations. You could have had so many other ingredients that would have stood weight before court. That's my response to that.
But that's an easy emotional connect, right? When you keep telling people that this is a law which will be misused against a general category, against OBCs by Dalits, that will strike a chord is what these protesters believe. And even the Supreme Court has pointed that
But
out.
Dhanya, this is an argument we hear, like Mridula said, every single time, right? How many jokes have we heard, crass jokes, they're saying that, oh, dowry harassment, domestic violence and sexual harassment. We recently saw in Kerala men dressing up in ways to say that, oh, I shouldn't be accused of sexual harassment. But I think what they're, and I even saw on Twitter particularly, a lot of upper caste right-wing people coming up and saying that this will make sure that students can't focus on education in class because they have to be so conscious of the fact that somebody might perceive. Very misplaced, there's a deliberate campaign, right, that has come to make it seem like it is favoring, it is against a certain section. What they're not realizing is not against a certain section, it is protecting a certain other section which historically needed protection. And the very fact that if you're not doing it in universities, it will kind of perpetuate in every other aspect in life is something that is missed on every single one of them.
Also, UGC regulations do include OBCs. It says OBCs, Dalits and scheduled tribes. So the protests are mainly by the
quote-unquote general
category.
This is again like MRA saying, include men also in the same law as discrimination against women.
Sudipto?
So I look at this as the latest in a very old tradition of denialism, and I believe that this emergence of the SC and ST categories as a separately protected category from all other categories of people in Indian demography is a project that started in the year 1919, when Ambedkar appeared before the South Borough Commission. And that was a time in which Muslims and Hindus were fighting for their piece of earth, saying that give us our land, give us our rights, our political rights. The communal award was what was in question. At that point, Ambedkar enters the debate and says, hey, wait a second. There are Muslims, there are Hindus, that's a separate question. For them, perhaps it's a question of sovereignty. For us, it's a question of dignity, human rights, existence. And that the British should consider while they're considering this post-colonial phase of India. Because this post-colonial imagination started immediately after the British Crown took over after 1858. And when they took over, it was just a matter of time for democracy to come, right? So these discussions that were happening were about the idea of India. What kind of a nation India will be and what kind of a neighborhood it will have, what will the subcontinent look like and all these questions. In that question, until that point, it was just restricted to, like I said, Hindu, Muslim. This third category was introduced by Ambedkar to say what? That these people are uniquely discriminated. These people are slaves of both these national imaginations, the Muslim national imagination and the Hindu national imagination. In both those imaginations, the slave population needs to be addressed, and that's why there's a long tradition. So 1919, it starts. And then in 1932, things come to a head. The Pune Pact happens. People should check that out. You guys have, of course, discussed this in the past as well, where it came down to, do you give the, what do you call that, specially discriminated people separate electorates, or do you give them special protections? I still think it's a huge tragedy that they were not given separate electorates. They were given special protections. Now, these special protections, once again, from 1932 up until 1949 and 50, when the Constitution is adopted, these sections in the Constitution, 15.3, all these sections, these are all, I'm saying, almost 100 years of well-lawyered history is there in all of this to establish that this is a specially discriminated group. So some 5, 10, 15, 20 clowns turning
hundreds,
up in
thousands,
even thousands if they turn up, they are nothing compared to the fact that this is a nation of 1 billion people, of which 25% is considered not fit to be part of civilized society. Even today in a city like Bangalore, you'll see there is a Uru, there is a Keri, right? There is a civilized area and there is a so-called uncivilized area. And unfortunately, this is not just a spatial reality, it is a state of mind. Because it is a state of mind, it gets translated into campuses. That in a campus, again, you see the HCU fight from where this whole thing started, 2016, Rohit Vemula. What do? They set up something called the Vellivada to bring attention to what? That even now in a higher education institutions, spatially segregation, whether it exists or not, psychologically there is a segregation, and this Vellivada, this tent that we have established in that campus is a symbol of that discrimination. So therefore, 5 jokers jumping around, I don't think undoes 100 years of legal history. Mridula, you are the lawyer, I don't know.
So you're saying that it's just a deterrent when we keep talking about misuse, because the real conversation should be about affirmation only and about protecting people.
This misuse thing has come repeatedly and it has got
Of course,
defeated in the
yeah,
courts.
yeah.
It has got defeated in the courts, so we don't need to take it into consideration is all I'm saying. Yes, there will be a judge who will take it into consideration, but that a judge is constrained by the constitution. The fascist ambition is entrapped in the constitution, is entrapped by the constitution.
Mridula?
So another thing I was thinking about when Sudipto was talking was about this, like misuse is one thing, but where does this anxiety come from? It's an anxiety that I'm trying to understand with the law especially, because you see a lot of them are saying हमको jail में डाल देंगे, which is not true at all. But again, a gap in the UGC regulations as it stands today. What is the consequence is not clearly etched out. Right? There's a mechanism for appeal, there's a mechanism for an inquiry, all of that. But what exactly happens in the end is not really laid down, which is, of course, creating this anxiety in my mind. Not my mind, but if I'm to understand why they are anxious about it. Because you see the social media handles, they're all saying, humko jail mein dal denge, general category ko, like they want to barbad, like ruin our careers and lives. Hum to अच्छे बच्चे हैं.
बहुत सारा हिंदी बोल रहे हैं हम आज.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. But like because I read it and I heard it in Hindi, so I'm like just parroting it. But they say that we are very very they'll ruin our careers, our good reputation.
They're calling it reverse discrimination.
Exactly, reverse discrimination, right? So what is this anxiety of just bare minimum accountability? The max, in my opinion, that can happen out of a process, say someone's, that they'll probably be asked to write an apology. That's all.
But, like you mentioned, Sudipto, yes, there is still physical demarcation of spaces, yes. But in a lot of spaces like universities, maybe, that has evolved into a much more sophisticated way of discrimination.
Absolutely.
Here, the fear is that will be acknowledged and there will be apologies made, and that barrier, it could be psychological, it could be that power play, right, will break down. That is where the fear stems from.
So then the court needs to ask itself, is that valid? Is it valid? Is it a valid concern to hold in a law, a protective law, a beneficial law, unconstitutional or whatever, right? That's something, but then again, I wish the regulations had spelt out the exact consequences.
About the regulations, I mean, you wanted one throwaway statement, right? So my throwaway statement...
I didn't insist on that at all.
No.
But please be my guest.
I insist on it now because
here's why. For future, here's why we'll get told for this episode. Go.
No, but all I'm saying is that, it is so bad that it is either a result of some malice or incompetence. A great deal of it. This UGC thing. Either it is malicious. Why do I say it is malicious? Because at a time when we're talking about Dalit rights matter, you're talking all lives matter, right? So therefore it is, to my mind, malicious also, but maybe it's a result of incompetence. Why do I say this? Because some of the people who are associated with this entire pushing of the Supreme Court, pushing the UGC, are not necessarily casteist vigilantes. They are perhaps even well-meaning people, but who do not have an immersion in the anti-caste tradition. As a result, they see everything as, oh well, SC, ST, OBC, minority, LGBT, women and all of that, and you can go on. And my point is not to say that these are not discriminated groups. I do not take their discrimination into account with any sense of resentment or contempt. I see it as an extension of the social justice program. If you remember, in the morning I was talking to Dhanya, we were talking about how the liberation of the most oppressed results in the liberation of the least oppressed. So here, SC, STs being the most oppressed, their liberation through this or through any other legislation will eventually lead to the least oppressed being also liberated. And in this, I do not want to point out in this, let's say, when you're talking about women, queer people, Muslims, OBCs, I'm not trying to grade. This, I'm not trying to do because it's an exercise that still needs to be done. In the case of SC, STs, their marginalization has been established through research, through law, through data. The relative marginality of women, of LGBT people, of Muslims, of Christians, of OBCs needs to come through similar processes. And this question about caste discrimination opens up all these other questions. Because what are all these other questions in the end of the day? They're all a result of what we call Brahminical patriarchy, of which I suppose all of us, 4 of us, are victims over here, right? In some way or the other. So that is one thing. But consider that this anxiety word has been used many times, no? We should actually now sit back and like smile a little bit, because who are the people who are anxious right now? The Raitas and the Trads are fighting.
They're giving themselves away, actually.
Yeah. No, but Raita Trad, remember that whole thing?
The Raitas are saying that Dharmendra Pradhan is a fool. He should be kicked from the back.
Well, I think this is all match fixing. Huh?
Yeah, of course. Politically, I think
Politically,
there is
I
some
think it's
match.
fantastic. I am very happy to see that the BJP is fumbling for an answer.
No, but the
No, I
Supreme
don't
Court
think
has
they
come as to the rescue of the BJP,
Yeah.
right? Basically, you've
Don't
stayed
count
the
on it.
regulations.
No, but the BJP will now have to, see, the government will have to represent itself in court now. Are they going to say that, no, we are against SC/STs? I dare them.
No, but I'm saying the regulations also include OBCs. It's not a huge risk for the government that way.
See, OBC is, Mridula, you're a lawyer. This OBC question.
So, see,
How's this?
I love how you're throwing her under the bus.
No, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but as a lawyer, if you can set the context for this OBC question, how do we see the discrimination of OBCs? They are a separate category from SC/STs. What is the
And
law?
in many cases, we do see that OBCs are the oppressors.
I want to give you an example, okay? If you've heard of this case called BK Pavitra, right? It was a case that adjudicated upon service law. Basically, it's promotion in service and how consequential seniority, and promotion reservation in promotion should be looked at. And so that's what the judgment was about. And this law, and there was actually an act which was challenged before the 2009. There are 3 BK Pavitras, and that one of them basically said this law, which is granting promotion, reservation in promotion, 2002 Karnataka law, has to be scrapped because it's not based on data. Then the Karnataka government did a study. And then we had, they came out with a law, and then that was again challenged, and this time they upheld it because there was a study that has already been conducted to establish that what the social reality in promotions and how discrimination functions against SC/ST SC/ST government servants, and then it was adjudicated. So now, when the court says this, when a group is, it's been, so basically what I'm trying to say, like Sudipto said, data has to support, if you're making a law, and even the 1989 Atrocities Act, it didn't come out of thin air.
Exactly.
It has always come from a study. So I feel if OBCs are, if there is a study on OBCs and it can be established in exactly what kind of discrimination, because again I'm seeing a difference between what the SC/STs go through and what the OBCs, because OBCs in some parts of the country also control resources, okay, and control significant material resources, and again that can also be used to discriminate the SC/ST. So
and like I said, they're also the oppressors in many cases.
Yeah, but again, that's not a clear thing. It's vague. It will be useful to have a study, is what I'm saying.
If I could cite an anecdotal example, many years ago, Sidramaiah had said there was a demand to include Kurubas, which currently are in the OBC category, bring them to ST category. At that time, he had taken a firm stance saying that in my own lived experience, we're talking about data, which is important for lawmaking, but he said, in my own lived experience, I know for a fact Kurubas did not face the historical discrimination injustices that STs did. The background to this was that there were several constituencies where Valmikis and Kurubas were neck to neck, and they wanted the same kind of protection. He had taken a stand saying, I will not. Of course, it's very tragic that now he's done a complete turnaround. He said that I will not allow Kurubas. In my own village, I know Kurubas did, discriminate against people from the ST community. So that is one lived experience there.
I want to just say that in the case of the OBCs, like Mridula was saying, a lot of data is missing. What are their chains made up of? What are their fetters? What is holding them back educationally and socially? Is that the term? Socially and educationally backward is how OBCs have been described. So we are yet to understand their chains fully, is one point. And also consider this thing of them being dominant, I feel that they are far more socially dominant than they are economically dominant. And
But not all OBCs.
Yeah.
Some.
but consider the definition of OBC then. If you're saying that Kurubas are OBCs, Kurubas are not OBCs. Barring the creamy layer among Kurubas, the remaining population is OBC. And there is a tension there. There is a contestation there because in all these OBC categories, you have one creamy layer bunch who actually come to define the culture of everybody else. Pooja has reported a lot in South Karnataka. Dhanya, you reported in largely in Tamil Nadu and those parts. You see these communities like Tevars, Vanyars, Gaundars, Gaudas. In our imagination, I'm also perhaps, I should say that I was also perhaps wrong in this description where we describe them as landed dominant. But the fact of their reality is that a majority of them are not that landed, are not that financially dominant. All right.
Is this a landmark moment where we have to now change how we write also in the News Minute? Because 2 years ago, we decided on writing as landed and dominant.
I just saying that, remember we said that we should make spectacular mistakes and learn from them perhaps, and I think making a spectacle out of our mistakes is important because it brings attention to the fact that these are not settled questions. These are not settled questions. Okay, I just, an example, Dhanya, you might remember when this whole voter scam issue was happening, some of our young reporters went to rural parts of Karnataka, Nelamangala and all of that, and they were surprised to see Gaudas living out of hovels, living out of huts which are not even pakka. And then we had to, explain to them that, listen, Gaudas are not the people who you see, those 5 real estate fellows who you see in Bangalore. There's a huge...
Or Reddys. Karnataka Reddys I'm talking about, yeah.
So therefore, I think the class question, the internal gradation within the OBCs has to be resolved among the OBCs themselves, because there is as a result of neoliberal policy, so many other things, there has been the emergence of a creamy layer among them. That is a new reality. And the old reality, the ancient reality of India is what? That this is the most mobile section of the population, which is one day they are Shudra, next day they can also be Kshatriya. And the day after that they can again become Shudra. It depends on winning and losing wars and in the present context, elections.
But I think that just the generalization came from the fact that they were on top of the feudal pyramid, and that kind of stereotyping continued.
Okay, about OBCs, this another question comes. Okay, if you're going to club them in this anti-discrimination framework as all discriminated people, despite whatever caveats I may give in terms of, well, there are sub-populations, large populations among them who are not doing very well and all of that, they still consider themselves better than SCs or STs, and they can be in a position where they discriminate, oppress, exploit SCs. In the case of Rohit Vemula, we did see certain OBC students being part of that mobilization against the SCs. So this question, how will it resolve? I don't know.
That's where the social and economical discrimination comes in.
Yeah. So I wanted to also add that, see, the main worry or concern and anxiety with these protests are also seeming to be like, we are also vulnerable. Everyone wants to think of themselves as vulnerable in some way. So I'm not challenging that. I don't think that's contestable. Sure, everyone is vulnerable in one way or the other, but who gets to transfer their vulnerability and pain to, whom? Who finally bears the brunt? Yes, for example, someone from a particular strata of the caste system is probably probably bearing the brunt from people above them. But do they get to pass it on? Is the question. Now, I'm not saying the general category people, they might be vulnerable in some way, but they should ask themselves, like, who finally bears? That's something they may also not be aware of because of the enclosed way structures of caste. So that's an important thing, that we acknowledge vulnerabilities, but people should ask themselves, do we have adequate means of overcoming vulnerabilities, and who doesn't?
And also, who's at the bottom of that pit of trickle-down effect of...
So I think we should not miss the whole political aspect of this. It is not just something playing out in courts, right? We are seeing in the last 3-4 days, there is a mobilization on the ground. Now, I was unfortunately watching a few television debates in which one or two lawyers kept citing this case of this Vishnu Tiwari. He was somebody who was in jail for a rape case for 20 years in Uttar Pradesh. And after spending 20 years in jail, they found that he's innocent, and he's come out a few years ago. we've had several cases. Remember,
Karnataka, the
Andhra
man
Pradesh,
who
we
was-
have had cases. We've had a lot of
No,
cases
recently
like that,
the
right?
Mysore man who was accused of murdering
so
his
that
wife.
is the example that is being cited across, right? Now, same thing happened in Kerala 2 weeks ago when that woman who shot the video of this man called Deepak in the bus, Deepak dies by suicide. She should be booked if he did not do anything and she was simply shooting a video. All that police will find. But these outlier cases or aberrations are continuously used to whip up fear. And that is also a political project. See, when the Mondal report came out also, we saw that. I mean, if the Supreme Court had not stayed this today, I think we would have seen the protests really stepping up, that fear psychosis building up in many ways, saying that, oh, I will also be a victim, you'll be the next Vishnu Tiwari. And that was the political. I think the BJP found itself in a big soup.
But to add to just address that, I think what is outlier for some communities is the norm for others.
Yeah.
So there are like many cases like that. This comes through and then it's a shocker. But there might be many Dalits who have gone through the same thing and probably even extrajudicially killed or some other injustice which doesn't come until a critical mass of them have suffered. And then they collectively uprise. But here, if one or two cases happen, it is paid attention to.
Exactly,
So that's the difference.
Yeah.
I just want to bring all your attentions to all these false cases filed by Dalits, right? Which were obviously probably untrue because they resulted in acquittals. You have Karamchedu massacre, you have the Kambalapalli massacre, you have the Khairlanji massacre, you have the Chunduru massacre, all false cases. No, they are false cases. No, because everyone is acquitted. So people died. They must have fallen from a bike. They were taken on thing and raped themselves, burnt their own houses.
Yeah.
So we have such a large, if you just any of these clowns, all they need to do is just go Google SC/ST atrocities in India. Not even pre-independence, post-independence. The list is just a procession of deaths and deaths and deaths and deaths. And all of them are acquittal, which means what? They'll say there's some Vishnu Tiwari, what? Something like that only, all false cases.
There's also this thing, there is a crime, but there's no criminal. With women and Dalits, this is quite often the case that there's this entire movie which I keep referring to, No One Killed Jessica. There's a crime, someone's shot and then nobody is,
Held
accountable. So another thing about
No one
privilege,
killed Saujanya.
Yeah, exactly.
Still
No
yes,
one killed Saujanya. And also this thing about accountability, it's a grade. It's like it's on a scale. We are like in the UGC regulations, very bare minimum accountability, right? They're crying for that. They are like, no, we don't want to. Wow, it's the fear of privilege confronting accountability. And then when it comes to a grosser, violent thing, that's like they'll condemn it then. But they don't see how there is like a subtle grey area where a lot of casteism, a lot of hatred is condoned on a daily basis where people are dehumanized. And then finally when something gruesome happens.
I don't know. I feel like in the last 2-3 years, people have even stopped condemning, very violent acts against Dalits, women, because even that is very polarized, I feel. They don't even feel a necessity. I'm not talking about politicians, right? Because they occupy a certain place. They have to do it because it's a necessity. But for a lot of these foot soldiers, I think it's par for the course now if somebody is killed or there is violence. I don't think they're apologetic.
It's all about the social location of who's killed and who they first wait to
in
see.
In fact, they will when Gauri Lankesh was killed, for example, they even justified it, right? There are so many things that justify
these are slightly different examples, I feel. There is one slogan that I'm reminded of in that HCU campus. I can't find the exact words. It was like, they had built that Vellivada and the slogan was, if you touch the Vellivada, the whole village will burn. Okay. Now consider the hot potato kind of situation that the BJP is in. This whole judiciary, all of this entire bureaucracy is not able to explicitly say we do not want SC/STs to get protection. And I suppose that is a measure of the power of that constituency also. The fact that you can go after a left activist, you can go after a Muslim. I feel like it is not possible in today's time to really antagonize Dalits. And again, I say this also because if you see 2014 was when Modi came to power, right? We were all part of this repackaging of Modi. From about 2010 till about 2014, there was this huge thing. Till 2016, Modi is blemishless, and boom, the whole thing comes apart when Rohit Vemula happens. And no other movement before or after has managed to embarrass them, has managed to push them to fumble for an explanation. What Smriti Irani did in parliament in response to Rohit Vemula's death, what Modi was doing, what the whole this thing. I think there's a certain uniqueness over here.
No, I'm not talking about politicians. That's what I said. Politicians have to behave in a certain way, but not the foot soldiers.
The foot soldiers are the ones that politicians should be scared of.
They should be. Look at the kind of violence they're propagating against their own government now.
Yes, but these are not many. All I'm saying is these are not many. And that is why the government has a hot potato, because they realize that this is again my experience from having reported in Mangalore and all these places. These Bajrang Dal, Shri Ram Sena, all these feral organizations are finally in the end of the day 100 boys, 150. Okay, the population of Dakshin Kannada is much larger than
Thousands
and lakhs of people live in Dakshin Kannada.
But then
Karnataka,
they will have the silent endorsement of a lot more. And that's what is... Beware as may. Yeah. And here, I think that's the same problem. And Dhanya is saying that there are 10 people protesting on the ground. On social media, that number grows up to say 100,000, because it's easier to sit at home and, be... and those 100,000 will have the silent endorsement of a lot of other people.
That is a difference here. It's not a
Mondal
fight anymore, right? It's not on the streets anymore.
Yeah.
It's social. You want to say something?
Yeah, I want to disagree with Sudipto a little bit, because
that's a dangerous path to go down.
It's fine. So when he says that he tries to believe that it's power of the Dalits that, the government cannot say. I would disagree with that. I would say because they cannot find a moral justification where they can look good by, opposing the Dalits. I would say that.
I know Pooja's putting up her hand, but I'm going to
I love how she just ignores me
I
when
want
I
to
put
disagree
my
with
hand
both
up.
of you a little, because I'll tell you, what I think is it is not about the power of Dalits, or it is not about the moral confusion of the BJP, but it is about them as a vote bank
Oh my God, you can't do this.
Yeah.
That's what I was putting my hand up for.
No, but that's
I'll
what is
just
the power I'm
I'll
talking
just
about.
explain
No.
why.
Huh.
Of course, there is a moral justification problem, because, if you do atrocity against a Muslim
But
or
when has
Christian,
this government cared about
they
moral
are outside
justification?
your umbrella of Hindutva and your social engineering, right? Dalits, that way, they want to include in this larger umbrella. Therefore, they cannot behave the same way when it's a Muslim or a Christian, exactly the same with Dalit. But the other thing is the 2024 election, if you see, what was the biggest hit for the BJP? It is this rumor spread by the Congress that there will be there's an amendment to the constitution, and that reservation somehow will be reduced for the SC/STs, right? That spread like wildfire, such wildfire that Modi and Amit Shah themselves had to explain from stage to stage, saying that no, we are not doing that. So this is, one is the vote bank itself. And the second, like you said, I do agree with your point of the moral responsibility. But in one way, all this put together does give them some sort of power.
No, I don't think this government cares about moral responsibility or how you will morally explain
that
something
they won't,
beyond the
because
point.
they're promising that. I feel they just can't.
So I think I'm more in agreement with what Dhanya stole from my head. Because if you see on the ground, the BJP and the RSS has been silently working in bringing Dalits into the Hindutva fold, and they've been successful in a lot of places, in small portions nonetheless. So that is the project, I think, that so-called unification, the farcical unification that they talk about, that project will be hit. That's their only concern. I don't care. The optics and all, they don't care about. I think they're beyond that.
And I think in this, if this is true and if this power really does exist, it's a lesson for the entire bunch of forces which are arraigned against BJP's fascism, Hindutva, vagera, which is that the key to unlocking this empire, to make it crumble, actually is caste. That Hindu unity can never exist as long as caste exists as a contradiction. That is something that the BJP understands better than all of us, I suppose, in this secular, left, liberal spaces. One of the things that I suppose has been the biggest failure of this anti-Modi mobilization is not taking into account this one thing, the fact that caste is the undoing of Hindutva.
But I think that the problem here is this. We imagine caste communities to think and function homogeneously. That doesn't happen, right? For a lot of people, their immediate enemy is in somebody in the village, some caste in the village. They are willing to accept Hindutva into their household rather than this person of a certain caste. So,
Mridula, I want to just bring your attention to one thing the Supreme Court has said before we go to closing comments. They said, why is caste discrimination separately defined when the definition of discrimination takes care of all forms of discriminatory treatment?
So like I explained in the very beginning, it could have been separate, all right, but there, you see the definition. I just want to take you all through the definition once. You see the definition of caste discrimination means discrimination only on the basis of caste, tribe against so and so, SC, ST, OBC. But if you see discrimination, it's a more robustly defined thing, saying means any unfair, differential, like they're a little more broader, they've added a little more substance to that definition. And I think they're referring like this distinction, right? It's a little bit, I don't know, like in one place you're adding only identities and saying any discrimination against these people, and in the other place you're like broadly defining. It is a little bit of a it's not a contradiction exactly, but when everybody is getting discriminated and you're defining caste, it should be a specific thing. You could have added more substance to, that's my sense of it, that you could add a little more substance to why caste-based discrimination is different from mamuli discrimination. What would that element be? What would that separate element be? And you see, discrimination also says on grounds of only religion, race, caste. It includes that. And in the caste-based discrimination, only certain identities are protected and there is no rationale. And the Supreme Court has asked a question. I don't think there is a strong justification for doing it this way.
They'll have to make alterations to that.
They will have to.
Sudipto, I want to just end by asking that there is a Rohit Vemula bill in the anvil in Karnataka. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a very broad question. Am I positive, hopeful about it? I can't say that the Congress as a party, as a whole, will come behind this and stand. Because the Congress is not
one Congress.
Yeah, the Congress is many parties in one party. Okay, that is my biggest fear with something like the Rohit Vemula Act. It is a party which has, on many occasions, not delivered on the social justice question. So that is a matter of concern. And, it is a party which is, for some reason, very spooked very easily. They are not known for taking tough positions, stands, ideological stands. Their stands are always, most often, a result of the winds. They're shaped by the winds. So that is my great fear about this Rohit Vemula Act. Now that this controversy has erupted in the UGC thing, I don't know what kind of lobbies will start playing. That said,
there has been intent.
There has been intent, at least on the part of the few people with whom the campaign has been in consultation. You have the law minister, H.K. Patil. I was kind of paying attention to the kind of deliberations that were happening, and he came across as somebody who was quite educated in social justice law. So that is a source of some hope. Priyank Kharge is somebody who first started talking about the Rohit Vemula Act about, I think, January last year. He picked it up. I understand that Rahul Gandhi also is a votary of this thing. So therefore, what is becoming apparent is that this, on one side you can see it as a positive. Oh, Priyank Kharge, who is the son of the Congress president, is talking about this. Rahul Gandhi, who is the de facto head of the party, is talking about this. It can either be seen as a positive, or you can see it as something which is a little worrying, saying, hey, the top leadership is talking about it. How come nobody else is talking about it? You have a person like a Revanth Reddy, whose ideological moorings are not yet clear. You go visit Hyderabad, some very disturbing things are being said about his ideological commitments, right? You have somebody like a Mallu Bhatti Vikramarka, who is a Deputy Chief Minister of Telangana, an alumnus of the Hyderabad University campus, familiar with the details of the Rohit Vemula case and all of that, not making the right kind of statements, noises. He did meet with a delegation recently, led by Radhika Vemula. But this is what is a source of worry for me. I do not entirely trust that the Congress is committed to this question of social justice. To that extent, I feel that there is a bipartisan consensus between the BJP and the Congress when it comes to caste also. while on one side it is something that they always try to muster around, but it is also one of their biggest contradictions because both these parties are in the end of the day led by Savarnas.
But I think because Rahul Gandhi has been very committal on at least he's been talking about it. He has to now show that words matter because you have got
Rahul
two
Gandhi,
governments.
now I'm getting a little impatient with Rahul Gandhi because, he says all these nice, cute things, and cute, no, because I find him very cute and, this good looking man, and all of that and all of that. He's got this oomph thing going, men for men and all that. He's a man's man, all of that, very,
Hey, he's cute only, man.
he's cute only, all of that. And, see, that way, Modi is not ugly.
No, I didn't say man's man. I said men for men. Like the
no,
men
he's
ugly men.
it is.
If looks were the only thing, I'm not talking only about, I'm talking about appeal, okay? So he says all these nice, progressive
Did you
things.
just say Modi is not ugly?
Modi is not ugly, he's kind of good looking only.
Okay, now go on.
Why does Rahul Gandhi look appealing? Because in addition to being just traditionally with good looking whatever, he also says these right things. But
But will he do the right thing? Yeah.
Doing the right things, I don't know. He's rarely if ever.
Mridula is just like trying not to smile or trying not to breathe. rather.
Smirk. She's
Yeah.
trying not to smirk.
Anyway, thank you very much, Mridula and Sudipto. So Kerala is going to polls in April or May, and in the lead up to the elections, we are seeing fast-paced developments over the last few weeks. In fact, the news which was dominating headlines was that the SNDP and the Nair Service Society or the NSS will come together. And suddenly the NSS declared that they will not be coming together with the SNDP. So that has been discussed a lot and a lot of other developments too. So to discuss all the fast-paced political developments in Kerala, joining us is political analyst Damodar Prasad. Thank you for joining us here at South Central.
Thank you.
Okay, so my first question, SNDP and NSS. I think around 12-13 days ago, the headlines were that SNDP and NSS will come together, and now suddenly NSS announcement comes that they will not. And Sukumaran Nair, the head of the NSS, his whole reasoning is that we will not fall for this political ploy. What was he suggesting? A lot of people are saying that he believes that Vellapalli Narration, who's the SNDP leader, was trying to take them to the BJP, and NSS has really stopped that at its tracks. What are your thoughts about everything that happened?
The question is what made them united? What was the reason for both of them to come together? So one reason is that we all could identify, that was in newspapers, in the news reports, was the issue regarding their opposition to V.D. Satheesan, opposition leader. So this happened during the Ayyappa conclave that was organized by the state government. During the Ayyappa conclave, the Minister Vasavan, the minister who is responsible for the Devasam board and also corporate sector, he's a kind of a social engineering manager. So he went to these caste leaders, community leaders who are actually caste leaders, representing caste organizations. Srinarayan Dhammavenuvalasam is a different, which has a legacy of Renaissance. So he went and met them and brought them together for this Ayyappa conclave. So that was the first instance where they were actually united for one meeting, which was organized by the state government. So it is all for the interest of the state government of the LDF government and Ravijan's government. Even before that, had a problem with V.D. Satheesan because V.D. Satheesan was outspoken in his stance on the community leaders' involvement, direct involvement in politics. So he used to say, unlike the Congress leaders or of the present generation, also previous generation, that there is no need for the community and the caste leaders to intervene in either in all Congress politics or in politics. So there is also no need for the party leaders to go to their respective headquarters. It is in Perunnan, Vellapalli Narration's house in Kanichikurangara, and visit them and propitiate these feudal lords. So Satheesan was outspoken on this. So in this case, both Vellapalli and Sukumaran Nair was agitated about Satheesan's stance on community and caste leaders and their role in politics. So separately, and they had come out against Satheesan. Now, using this as a ploy, the LDF government tried to unite them in the context of Ayyappa conclave. After that, Vellapalli Nadeshan on a everyday basis, on a daily basis, was spreading, vitiating the atmosphere, spreading hatred against the Muslim community, and also very saying it as an criticism of Muslim League was spreading hatred against the Muslim community in Kerala, and also against Malappuram, where we have a large population of Muslims. So this was going on a regular basis. NSS fortunately did not join in that kind of hate campaign, but hey, NSS had a problem with Muslim League, which also is an issue with SNDP, because NSS stand on economic reservation is opposed to the stand of SNDP, which goes by the constitutional provision of a reservation for the backward communities, and also League also subscribes to that question. So NSS had a problem with Muslim League. Vellapalli Nadeshan in this point of time was against Malappuram. He was campaigning against what you can call as a Malappuram phobia or Islam, also Islamophobia. That was also another reason for their coming together. Their stand against the Muslim League. Muslim being the key partner of the UDF. And you also have to see the context in which the CPM secretary and the CPM, all the top leaders of CPM are also campaigning against the Muslim League, and also A.K. Bala, who is a central committee member of CPM, who also said that tomorrow if UDF come to power, the Home Ministry will be held by Jamaat-e-Islami organization, which is an indirect reference to Muslim. It's an indirect reference that a Muslim will be in charge of the Home Ministry. So when if you combine all these things, this was the basic reason for all of them to get united. It was after that, Vellapalli Nadeshan and Vellapalli sent a message to Sukumaran Nair, through the media, of course. And later on, Sukumaran Nair, NSS General Secretary, appreciated this and also invited Vellapalli Nadeshan to have a discussion. And Vellapalli Nadeshan, instead of going there by himself, he told Sukumaran Nair also to media that BJDS leader and the vice president, BJDS president, his son Tushar Vellapalli, and also the vice president of SNDP will be dispatched to send to Perunna, NSS headquarters, to have a discussion with Sukumaran Nair. At the same time, he also expanded his coalition. Previously it was the previous coalition, the Rainbow Coalition that he brought of Hindu or social order was from the upper caste Nambudiri to Nayadi, the lowest caste as per the Hindu social order. So that was the earlier coalition that he wanted to make to forge a Hindutva identity. I will say Hindutva identity. Now he expanded it to include also Christians, excluding the Muslims. So you can actually find a shade of CAA politics in this new coalition that he was proposing to Kerala. From upper caste Nambudiris to Nasranis, what he said, Nasranis. It's a term used in Malayalam for designating Christians. So that was the coalition that he proposed. So that coalition, the CPM thought that this kind of social engineering, actually this kind of social engineering is a the BJP is very much interested in this kind of social coalition. They have been trying this kind of social engineering elsewhere in northern states and also even in our neighboring states. So now when this coalition was proposed, none of the CPM top leaders came out against it because they thought this social engineering may in effect be helpful, beneficial for the CPM in the elections, as proved in the Muslim. Because the same CPM was also in a way, in their rhetoric, was also targeting in a way Muslim League and through that Muslim community also. So this was the context in which both of them were trying to, these two organizations, NSS and SNDP, was trying to forge a unity. Within 8 days, in between, BJP government, central government conferred Vellapalli Narendran Padma Bhushan award. Immediately after the next day, the NSS Direct Board first, that was the first breaking news that came. NSS Director Board decided that the NSS will withdraw from this unity of SNDP and NSS, citing the reason that it was not Tushar Vellapalli who should come for this country, because Tushar Vellapalli, son of Vellapalli Narendran, is also vice president of SNDP. He is the president of BJDS, which is a partner of ally of the BJP, part of NDA coalition. He is also convener of the National Democratic Alliance in Kerala. So that was a reason cited by NSS Director Board. Immediately after that, then within hours, and Sukumaran also came before the yesterday. Also he came. He said that was his proposal. It was he brought that to the Director Board meeting, and he also actually called Tushar Vellapalli and told him that there was no reason for him to come because he's a NDA convener, and Sukumaran also informed the media, informed the public that there was some trap set for NSS in this kind of a coalition, because in BJP, NDA being BJDS being NDA partner, and also Tushar being the NDA convener, and BJP was trying to maneuver through.
My question here is, one is that in a lot of discussions, what is being pointed out is that when the Sabarimala entry protest started in Kerala, which was in 2018. At that time, it was the NSS which actually started the protest. But soon, BJP, Congress and RSS, everybody joined in. BHP, everybody joined in. Which is when the NSS realized that this is getting out of control, that the narrative is being hijacked by the political parties, especially the BJP, and they stayed out of it. Now, this is being cited as a second example of Sukumaran Nair and the NSS really stopping the Sangh Parivar or the BJP's larger social engineering of what Vellapalli called as Nasrani Mudal Nambudiri Vare. But would you give that credit to the NSS that they stopped this because they do not want this kind of politics in Kerala, or they do not want to be part of it?
That could be one reason. Anyway, I mean, it's a positive gesture from the side of NSS. This is not for the first time. Even before, he had resisted BJP's and the Sangh Parivar's arms organization to indulge in community politics, in Nair community politics. But NSS is resisting BJP for a few reasons. One, NSS thinks that the Nair community, many of the Nair the BJP in Kerala, a large number of Nair community is involved in BJP politics in the leadership level, also at the secondary leadership, also in the local leadership, more than Irva community, I think so. So there is a chance that BJP may take control over the NSS organization. NSS on one hand is a community organization, on the other it's a social entrepreneurship organization also, because running large number of schools, it has its own budget, it has its own paraphernalia to manage, all those things NSS. So NSS is little bit wary that BJP will take over the organization, will control the organization through other means. So he was a bit hesitant about engaging with the BJP. He also, as even before, when Suresh Gopi visited NSS headquarters, went to visit NSS headquarters. That time also Sukumaran opposed it. But at the same time, a few months back, last year, last year, he welcomed Shashi Tharoor, when he visited NSS. So even though Sukumaran is personally has come out against Sadishan, he has certain interest with the Congress party. And some of the leaders also of the Congress party are also very close to Sukumaran Nair. They call him Manichat. So I think that relation still exists. So he has a warm relation with those Congress leaders within the Kerala leadership, like Chennithala, except Sadishan. So I think NSS would like to go with the Congress rather than with the BJP, because NSS has no outside Kerala interest. That is another thing. Outside Kerala. But in case of Vellapalli Narendran, SNDP may not be having outside Kerala, but as a business person, Narendran or his son may have an extra outside Kerala interest. And the other thing is that as we know, so he has an agenda regarding reservation, which he calls economic reservation, which is against the constitution. But he has never spoken in any communal way, like Vellapadi Naresan. Though he has come out against Muslim League, and particularly against Muslim League, and also even against a certain Muslim organization. But he never had such he never spoke in a communal way like Vellapalli so far. That's our understanding. And perhaps these are the reason that
No, I was actually thinking, I just picked on one thing where you said Islamophobia might have brought the two apart. That was one common interest. But that's also working the other way around, right? A reverse consolidation has also happened. 2021 was one election where we saw sections of Muslims vote for the left, which was not there before. This time around, that might not happen. There is a consolidation also because Muslim League has kind of brought on their hard barrier where they said that we will not associate ourselves with extreme Muslim forces. They seem to be more accepting of everybody, including some Jamaat factions that have, kind of drifted towards Muslim League. So in that sense, one, Congress needs Muslim League more than the other way around. Muslim League has their own constituency in at least 20 odd whatever. So how will the reverse consolidation of Muslim happen, and will that all go to the UDF? Will that change the equation too?
Pooja, we should understand Muslim politics. After post-Madhuri Masjid, there was a change in Muslim politics. After the post-CA, the change in the consolidation of Muslim politics in such a way that many of the organizations which were actually opposed to each other, within the Muslim community, the traditional Sunni communities were not, have opposed the Jamaat Islam faction, Jamaat Islam organization. But that has actually changed after the post-CA. Because when they see that, when they understand that the identity itself becomes a target of attack, there is always a chance of coming together of a community that we can see. The CPM also want to exploit this coming together as a kind of vote bank politics. They used it during the last Lok Sabha election. They know the Palestinian movement, as if Palestinian movement is a Muslim political movement, Palestine issue. They also had many such conventions and rallies, supporting extending solidarity to Palestinian struggle. Same way Congress also did. But since the Muslim League is a major ally of UDF, there is always this chance of Muslim vote consolidating around Muslim League because they think that the community perhaps think that there is a chance that Muslim League is in power. They have some kind of a say in the issues regarding Kerala. In many sectors. So that is one reason of you cannot call it reverse consolidation, but this is a post-CA scenario where when you find that identity itself becomes a target of attack, there is a chance of coming together.
So the CPIM, we were actually discussing, I think 2 weeks ago, did get a beating in the local body elections. And one of the findings then, a lot of analysts were saying that one reason could be that the Muslim community thought that the signals coming from the CPIM and the fact that they were moving closer to Vellapalli Nadeshan is a clear signal that that perhaps they will be antagonized.
Yeah, where Pinarayi Vijayan openly endorsed Islamophobic remarks made by Vellapalli Nadeshan.
No, he didn't endorse the remark, but he
justified
oppose
it.
He didn't oppose it. That was the whole issue.
But actually, I'm very curious about the equation between the two because I think in a podcast about a year ago, Nadeshan had in fact said that I think he will come back a third time. Pinarayi Vijayan will come back. So how does that
I think it's very
work?
love-hate, like Nadeshan's relationship with Padma Vibhushan and Padma Bhushan is. The other day he was saying which dog will want the Padma
And it's all
Bhushan.
bought, you can buy everything for
and
money.
now he's gotten it himself. No, but the point is, so M.V. Govindhan apparently said 2 days ago in the CPIM committee meeting that the people were upset with the CPIM and they voted against them in the local body election. But that is largely because of media distorting things regarding the party, and that all that is changed and they're confident they're going to win the assembly election is what the CPIM is saying. Now, my other question to you is that, now, whenever we talk about community, caste groups, we go back to the Vimojana Samaram in 1957-58, which brought down the EMS Namboodiripad government. Are these caste groups really strong anymore, like the NSS or the SNDP, especially the NSS? Do Nayars vote as a homogeneous group? Why is there so much importance to these groups?
In 1957, situation was very different. No, it was actually there was the residue of a feudal culture, which immediately reasserted itself up in the form of what you call as liberation struggle. But that is very past. Today, I think the things have changed after 1970s, 1980s. Things have changed. Today, I don't think NSS any. I mean, the Nair community is not a homogeneous community. Although and Mandathu tried to homogenize the Nair community, today it's not that kind of a homogeneous community. I don't think any has any sway over Nair community. Also, the same with Vellapadi Narration. We have seen several times when they have asked for a particular candidate to their community and their community members, their organized members to vote for a particular candidate. They have lost the election. They actually lost the election. Whenever they have vouched for any candidate, actually perhaps there was a chance for them to win, but just because they have vouched for a candidate, they have lost the election. Many times we have witnessed, and all the time we have witnessed that. And those like VM Sudhir who have opposed them have won election easily also, with a comfortable majority like V.S. Achyutanathan. He has consistent in his opposition to Vellapalli. So this is a fact. So maybe in certain southern districts, southern constituencies, there are certain areas, they have certain vote bank. I mean, which they could use to sway elections. Perhaps that is true. But we take the larger context of Kerala, south, the middle part of Kerala, and also the Malabar region, I don't think they have any such control over their community. So, but there is, but even few votes, few Karayogam votes matters for any party, particularly the Congress party. These community leaders, and one more thing, SNDP is a Renaissance formation, and NSS also, in a way, is a part of Renaissance formation, because modernization of the community was one major agenda of Renaissance. But now it has exhausted. I mean, the original project of SNDP and NSS is exhausted. It has no longer any relevance in that sense. Now it functions as an entrepreneurial organization running colleges, and also as a political pressure group, and also led by certain community leaders who have interest in business in their own personal areas. So they try to negotiate with the government through this organization, and otherwise, I don't think they have any relevance in the social context. The new social context, or the post-90s, post-liberalization, post-globalization social context. But it is the political parties, they give such importance to these community leaders, Vellapalli Narration, and also media also. I don't know what reason media goes anytime to their quarters, and whatever they utter, they immediately show it as a breaking news. I mean, there is no reason for that.
No, in fact, I was coming to that. I was just going to tell Pooja that while you were talking about how during Vimojana Sambram there was a feudalism amongst these caste groups which they were not ready to shed, which is why they went against the left government. And today, slowly and steadily, these organizations have lost their power, strength, and even their relevance to one extent. But the media keeps pushing, and including, I was thinking, even at South Central we are discussing this today.
Yeah.
Instead, we should have discussed local issues, right? And that's something I feel as journalists we keep forgetting, that elections are not about affiliations and who said what only, which is
about
what
issues.
Our coverage a lot of time just zeroes down to, no?
Yeah.
Though we try to course correct, I think we also keep coming back to that.
I think it's because there's so much noise already being made that we can't resist. But of course, that said, it's not. I want to know how irrelevant it really is, because local body elections, even if you look at the seats, it was one-sided, UDF won. But if you look at the vote share, CPIM and Congress had a difference of just 2%, right? So is that something that is that one of the reasons why these, caste groups still remain relevant, or they want to pretend like they are relevant, and Congress and other parties can't take a chance, right?
Yeah, that is one thing. Because after the Lok Sabha election, the immediate the shifting stance of CPM with regard to the community politics is because after the Lok Sabha election, Vellapalli made a statement that Irava vote is being, the CPM is losing Irava vote. The Irava vote erosion from the CPM, even from the northern part where the substantial population is with the CPM. So this was one point Vellapalli made after the Lok Sabha. Perhaps CPM took it very seriously. Instead of politically, because they did not, the Irava or Tiya community did not become part of the Communist Party, or were not part of the Communist Party cadres because of any community affiliation, because they were all politically mobilized. as agricultural laborers, as industrial laborers or service employees. And so they were actually politically mobilized, and that was the reason for them to be part of the Communist Party or the Communist political movement. Now, that is because for last few years, this is also a fact, for last 10 or maybe 10 years, CPM did not have any such political mobilization. There is something called political education of the cadres. That did not happen. And there is a kind of instrumentality of reason for CPM. The immediate task, the immediate agenda of CPM is not a very, very short-term agenda. Just to know the third time they have to come to power. This is a very instrumental reason on which CPM is doing all this engineering. So they don't have a vision beyond that. So the problem with Kerala, this kind of vitiating statements of Vellapalli narration and the kind of social engineering that is being done by the biggest of RSBJP will have a greater impact on social society and social fabric of Kerala, because Kerala withstood such pressures of from the Hinduization or Hindutvaization because of a certain formation of the community, what I would call as a mixed community relation, because unlike in other states, you have a mixed population in that sense. Even if you go to any residential area, you will find one house belong to one community next door. So that kind of a living is there. That is what we call as a modern social formation of Kerala. Thanks to the Renaissance tradition or later the communist tradition or all the political movements. So that tradition we have. So if there is any visceral attack on this kind of social fabric, it is going to have a long-term problem for Kerala, because it will create a lot of issues for the Kerala society. So actually that threatening these kind of vitiating statements with Vellapalli narration, and in a way keeping silent on this issue, the CPM endorsing it is going to create problems, problems and very serious issues for the Kerala society in the future. So they are not thinking beyond what the CPM think is that, once they are back in the ball for third time, they can resolve this issue. Because this is a very instrumentality of, again, another instrumentality, because they think that once they are back in the ball, they can resolve the issue, they can take a firm stand. The CPM is a secular party, which none of will disagree. But at the same time, because of this instrumentality of understanding, after third time the tactics may fail, because that is beyond their control. Because the social forces of Sangh Parivar, they are working at the social level. They are looking at society because they have a certain stamina, they have a certain innovative understanding of society, they have their own methods of deployment. So these are things that is a reality which the CPM is failing to acknowledge and understand, just because of this instrumentality, where the only agenda becomes getting the third term.
To quickly wrap up this, what do you think are the issues on which people will vote? For example, if you put on a news channel, we are going to talk, people are talking about Sabarimala, people are talking about NSS and SNDP. But what are the local core issues you believe that people will be voting for this election? Development being one, of course.
Local issues should have manifested in the Panchayat LSGD elections. But when the local development issues were seriously considered, always there was a chance for the left to gain the upper hand. But that did not happen in the LSGD election. Sabarimala is an important issue, because unlike in the previous, it's not about custom, or it's not about any kind of ajara, langaram or custom or ritual. Basically about theft. So it has wider ramifications. Not just the Hindu community, but all the people will be, there would be a kind of feeling that there is something seriously happened in Sabarimala. Because in last few years, you can find there are a lot of issues regarding the police administration, particularly the way the police stations are managed, custodial issues, all these are coming up forth. So it's directly, the Home Ministry is being held by this person, the chief minister is in charge of the Home Ministry. So that issue is also one prominent issue in Kerala. Third, the recent issue of, I was talking about this one, the Martyr Fund, Martyr Fund in Kannur. They collected fund for in the name of martyrs, so building a home for his family and also fighting the case. So you find that money being fraudulently misused by allegations against one of the MLAs of CPM by a CPM district committee member. And in the press conference, the CPM district committee secretary, K.K. Ragesh, while refuting the charges, did not want to explain to the public through media the actual expenditure. If he had done that, they would at least know subsidized issue, convince the public. But refusing it, many. You know that you cannot give RTA to political parties. RTA, you cannot send RTA, seek RTA information on the political party. That's of course true. But at least inform, because these monies collect from the public. So they have a responsibility to convince the public. This is the expenditure statement. This is the way we have, spend the money. So there is a tallying of all the accounts. So that is the responsibility of the community, the party to, impress upon the people. This is the account statement. But they could not do. So one anti-incumbency factor is there, fatigue factor is there, then Sabarimala is an important issue, then the recent issue of martyr, fund mismanagement, and also, as I told you, the serious issues about the police administration, which actually very middle class is being affected by this police administration. Very prominent issue, but it was they are discussed by the news media, news channels for a long time during that Lok Sabha elections.
Yeah, so a lot of issues really, including anti-incumbency, fatigue. And I just want to add that when this whole Martyrs Fund came up and there were allegations of corruption, what the CPM did promptly is to expel the person who made the allegation, which is their own leader, Kunji Krishnan, which will not reflect very well on the party because the Sabarimala corruption is on one side, on the other side, you are yourself expelling a so-called whistleblower. So let's see where the Kerala elections are headed to. Thank you very much, Mr. Damodar Prasad, for joining us here on South Central.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to the recommendations. Pooja, what is your recommendation?
There is this piece in Himal which is titled...
Every week you're giving Himal.
No, of course not.
I love Himal. Yeah. Along with us, please subscribe to Himal. Also, they are friends of ours.
Not just because of that, because they do fantastic work, that too. Dalpat Chauhan's alternate Dalit history of Gujarat, it gives insights into how we imagine Gujarat to be through Gujarati literature, talks about the Dalit movement in Gujarat. I found that fascinating. And also watched the series called Ted Lasso on Prime Video. Lovely, it just makes you feel good about the world.
No, I have two recommendations based on what I'm consuming right now. One is a little kitschy, and I kind of liked it because...
What kitschy?
It's kitsch.
Okay.
Kitsch, right? So this thing called Taskarin.
I watched it.
There was one scene in which I cracked up and rolled. Hate watched it. No, there's one scene I really laughed my heart out. More than one scene. Good, very slapstick comedy. The next one is this landmark book called Dust on the Thrones. It is by Douglas Aubert. It is about the rediscovery of Buddhism in India. And I'll just give you a little thing, lead in to that book. So it talks about how for thousands of years, Buddhism was in a way not part of mainstream consciousness. And these British officers started digging up old Prakrit and Pali texts. And all of this comes to a head when they discover this one particular text called Vajra Suchi, which is a Buddhist text and a complete criticism of the Brahminical caste order. Okay, and that is when they discover that, there is this anti-caste element in Buddhism. And from there on, there are these two strains of modern Buddhism that emerge. One in which you're looking at Buddha as a Vishnu avatara, and one in which you're looking at Buddha as this anti-caste icon or this person. So Douglas Aubert's book is very important, and also it helps me understand where Ambedkar got his ideas ultimately, because this is about 150 years before Ambedkar, all these discoveries. Please read that book.
My recommendation is Amitabh Ghosh's new novel, Ghost Eye. It's a very important novel. It's equal to his Gun Island. Then two articles I would like to recommend. One is by Rajendran. Full name I would say. It came in in Express Online. It's available online. The link is I can share the link. It's about how Instagram has turned now into a kind of healing hashtag. Basically about the young people using the Instagram for self-healing and how it is actually damaging their psychological state, psychological condition. It's about that and all the stress and all this. They said there's a process of self-healing through the tips and tricks of social media, Instagram, tidbit information. So it's about Rajendran is a psychologist. And another article is also something related to psychology, which is by Adam Grant, how we felt for the narcissistic leaders that came in New York Times last 29th. How we felt for narcissistic leaders by Adam Grant, which also, it's a insight into the kind of narcissist leader that we see everywhere. Everywhere in every places.
I'm reading something called The Political Value of Time by Elizabeth Cohen. And it's a book about how time is valued in politics, like whose time matters and how time acts as a boundary, like how, a physical fence acts as a prohibition, same way time also does. And it's very interesting. You all should check it out.
So because you spoke about this book, I have read no comparison, but I read this book called When Jesus Lived in India.
Oh yeah.
Basically,
He was Buddha's student or something.
Because of a story
No, he
was
in Kashmir. He looks a little like a Kashmiri.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether I should
There's a
take
movie
it as...
on this, Man on Earth. Man from Earth. Or something.
Yeah, so somebody told me to read the book, so I went back and read the book.
Are you very ironically recommending it?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just recommending it for
No, but
anybody
tell me
who
something about it.
likes
Tell us
theories. No, it's
something
the same thing that there's a period of his life where they say that he was in India, in Himalayas and all that.
No, I can imagine him to be a Kashmiri, the white.
See, Jesus is not white, okay?
No, but the reimagined version of Jesus could be a Kashmiri.
Hold on, that is not my recommendation. My recommendation is a podcast by New Yorker called In the Dark, Season 3. It came in 2024. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning podcast. That is not a big thing. A lot of people win Pulitzers. But it's about a Haditha massacre in Iraq where 24 people were killed by the US Marines. So this reporter goes back to the archives, and it is for the first time New Yorker actually gets those photographs which the US Marines themselves clicked of their own massacre, of them massacring Iraqis, citizens. So I think it's on 8 episodes. I finished till 6. It's really nice.
A difficult watch, I'm sure, no?
It's a podcast. So, I have an evil intention when I tell people to listen to podcasts.
I know.
Because then they will go to Spotify, then they will like South Central, they also like Watcherism. By the way, Sudipto has promised that he will restart his podcast series next month.
Yeah, but no more video, only audio.
Only audio, okay, fine. Yes.
Why no video?
Too much screen time people are spending. I care for public. They should not spend too much screen time, and there's not much to see here.
Okay, so that's it for this episode. Do not forget to watch Bhuvan Malik's documentary on the Great Nicobar Project. A lot of work went into that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bhuvan, the producer of South Central. Thank you, Ajay, our production assistant, our editor, Jasim Ali, Sukanya Shaji, the ears of the show, and Yana, who does all our socials. Join us next week for another episode.